It looked back at the beast on its back with troubled eyes. Whoosh! The vast sky thunderous dragon prince flew over from afar. It was shocked and infuriated to hear what Suaping had said, but it didn't dare to roar at him. It could only resort to begging. "Human, take me if you must, but please spare my child. I'm willing to go instead. I'm at the peak of the fate state, and I have some vague understanding of the power of laws, maybe I'll rise to the star state soon. I'm definitely more valuable to you. Please take me instead." Suaping glanced at it. Since the beast was close, he simply used the identification skill. Compatibility, 49.9. Level, peak of the fate state. Aptitude, low-high level. Tisk. Not good enough. Suaping shook his head. The dragon would have had mid-level aptitude if it would have broken the bottleneck and gotten 50 points of compatibility, but that was unfortunately not the case. "You're not as precious as your child," said Suaping indifferently after withdrawing his gaze. The dragons had no identification skills or advanced equipment, so they had no idea how talented the hybrid white-scaled vast sky thunderous dragon was. If raised well, it could likely grow to become the new king of the vast sky thunderous dragons. The dragon prince was stunned. It didn't know whether to feel happy or bitter after hearing that. Its child was a hybrid with an impure bloodline. Such mixed breeds would have a low social standing and limited potential among their compatriots. And yet, Suaping ignored it, a genius among the dragons, and simply demanded its child. Did he really appreciate its child? It felt both glad and sorrowful, as it didn't need such appreciation. "Hand it over." Suaping preferred to make haste, as the Dragon King might come back at any time. He said indifferently, "Like I said before, I'm only taking it away to train it, not to kill it. I'll send it back when it's strong enough, or no longer needed." "You!" The vast sky thunderous dragon prince was about to accuse him of lying, but then it hesitated. It realized that Suaping could have killed all of them and then taken its child away. It would be for the best not to infuriate the human. At the same time, it was slightly convinced of what Suaping claimed. Is this human serious? While it considered, the white-scaled serpent looked at its child. There was no telling if it bought what Suaping said, but it turned around and said to Suaping, "Human, please take care of my child. It is timid and prone to be scared of strangers. You may be wrong about its potential. Please don't kill it or sell it when you no longer need it. I offer myself in exchange if you are willing to let it return to this place." There was sorrow and tenderness in its voice. It sounded like a grieving mother. Suaping's eyes moved slightly when he heard the emotion in the beast's voice. He had seen countless beasts in the cultivation sites. Some were ferocious, some kind-hearted, while others feasted upon humans but were very gentle to their own kind. Classifying good or evil was all too simple for those demon beasts. Morals were awfully insignificant compared with the survival of a species that discussing it wasn't even worth it. "I'm not mistaken about it, you are," said Suaping while looking at the white-scaled serpent. "Your child is much stronger than you can imagine. It has the greatest talent I've seen so far. You'll eventually know that I'm right if you ever see it again." The white-scaled serpent was slightly stunned after seeing how calm and confident Suaping was. It had no idea why that human thought so highly of its child. "Is there really something special about my child?" But the child was just a crossbreed and didn't even have a pure dragon bloodline. "Give it to me," Suaping said, unwilling to waste any more time. The white-scaled serpent looked at the dragon prince, which was slightly trembling. It was extremely painful to watch its child be taken away by a human. However, the power that Suaping had demonstrated was something it could not counter. Not even its father was a match for Suaping. If they ended up angering the human, not only the child, but its dear white-scaled serpent would also be killed. "My baby, I'm sorry," said a pained dragon prince to the drakeling. The latter seemed panicked, unable to utter a word. The white-scaled serpent also turned around and looked at its child with gentle eyes. "My baby, you must live on and be well." Once he said goodbye to them, Suaping signed a contract with the white-scaled drakeling so that it could be stored. At the same time, the system notified him of the mission's success. The pet aptitude book appeared in the system space, but Suaping wasn't in a hurry to use it. He had to consider which pet the book should be used upon, and when to use it. Suaping noticed the drakeling kept looking back. He said with a smile while he sat on the Inferno Dragon's shoulder, "Grow stronger if you want to see your parents again." The contract allowed the new pet to understand his words. The drakeling felt confused as it looked back at Suaping. There was no telling whether it was because of the contract or something else, but it wasn't hostile to Suaping. It understood what its parents had said earlier. They had been running not just from Suaping, but also from its grandfather, as the latter was determined to kill both the mother and the child. They might have been caught if Suaping hadn't shown up. That was reason enough to not hate Suaping. Besides, the human had shown extraordinary power and defeated its scary grandfather. It was then that the young beast understood the charm of power. To grow stronger. Suaping's words echoed in its head. The confusion in its eyes was gradually replaced by firmness. That human signed a contract with Linner. He won't sell it. It's better for Linner to follow such a human expert than to be stuck with us. The white-scaled serpent and the dragon prince watched Suaping and their child disappear in the distance. They looked at each other with tenderness and affection. "My father was wounded. The sacrifice will probably be postponed. I can escort you to a safe place first," said the dragon. The white-scaled serpent looked at it and hesitated. Then, it summoned its courage and said, "Can we go together?" "No, I must stay." The dragon prince shook its head. "My father would be furious if I left. He would search for us everywhere. I'll do my best to calm him down. But you may die." The white-scaled serpent became anxious. Seeing the serpent's distress, the dragon prince smiled and said, "No, I won't. I'm the strongest warrior in my clan. My father plans for me to inherit the crown. Besides, I'm about to rise to a higher level. My clan needs a new leader. I would at most receive some punishment." The serpent said with guilt and pain in its eyes. "It's all my fault." "Nonsense. None of this would have happened if it weren't because of me. It's my fault that I couldn't provide a good environment for you." After flying for hundreds of kilometers, Suaping placed the drakeling inside the contract space and then asked the Inferno Dragon to fly at full speed. "If the vast sky thunderous dragons are so valuable, should I catch some of them and sell them at home?" Suaping was quite relaxed after the mission was accomplished. He was rather tempted as he looked at the clouds in the sky. Dragons were Ria's most famous pets. They could definitely be sold with ease. The shop has reached level 4. "No pets with aptitude below mid-level are allowed to be sold," said the system unhurriedly. Suaping was stunned. "Is there such a requirement?" "Of course. This shop only sells the best products," declared the system proudly. Suaping didn't know what to say. In such a case, very few vast sky thunderous dragons on that entire planet would fit the bill, unless he trained them after catching them to improve their aptitude. "System, you're only adding to my troubles." Suaping was unhappy for having additional work to do. "The higher the aptitude, the higher the price. The host should be determined to make the store the best in the universe," said the system casually. "I would rather not." Suaping rolled his eyes. However, he did agree that the higher the aptitude, the higher the price. He wouldn't suffer any losses because of it. "Hey!" Suaping soon detected a fate-state vast sky thunderous dragon. Whoosh! He simply flashed towards the target. At the same time, in the thunderous woods periphery, there were many hunters who had reached that location. All of them were hesitant, wondering if they should go further. What was that noise? Is there someone hunting in the woods? Hunting? Are they trying to hunt a group of vast sky thunderous dragons? I think the whole forest was trembling a while ago. Did a fate state expert show up? If he has, isn't he afraid that the Dragon King of the thunderous Dragon Mountain would come down to deal with him? The noises caused by the battle in the woods left all the hunters on edge. It hadn't been easy for them to sneak into that place, and then a loud noise was heard when they were about to catch one or two dragons in secret. Some took to the skies and saw the energy outburst, which was a clear indicator of a great battle. The thunderous woods were very close to the thunderous Dragon Mountain, which was dominated by a star-state Dragon King. Everybody was aware of them. They had no idea who had dared to cause such a fuss in the woods. There were 6 members in the team, 4 male and 2 female. The old man, who was the leader of the team, was asking a fully armed, silver-haired woman, "Ms. Mia, should we continue?" asked someone who belonged to one of the exploration teams in the woods. The silver-haired woman was none other than Mia Leifa, who had previously gone to Suo Ping's shop. "Did you hear the dragon roar? Even my rotten ghoul was trembling. It would normally be at ease, even when facing fate state beasts," said a young man with a pale face. Next to him stood a 7-meter-tall beast that was dark and rotten with chains all over. The beast was shivering at the moment, even though several minutes had passed since the earthquake took place. She was in dire need of a dragon of the Thunder family to reinforce her pet roster. The vast sky thunderous dragon suited her perfectly, which was why she had risked her life to visit that place. The other 5 members of the team looked at each other and heaved a sigh after hearing her answer. This highborn girl is simply too stubborn and naive. But they didn't have a choice. They were all mercenaries that Mia had hired, their information had been registered, let alone that Mia was from a renowned family. It was impossible for them to get rid of her or kill her to squeeze out of their commitment. All of them would be punished severely if anything happened to Mia. After all, she had paid for a life assurance contract of the highest level. They had to listen to her orders and ensure her safety since she had paid a considerable amount of money. "If so, let's just investigate this area. It would be great if we can catch a vast sky thunderous dragon with decent aptitude," said the captain of the team, then sighed. The other teammates were unable to say anything else. The trees suddenly shivered and collapsed. A green dragon with a shell suddenly rushed out from the woods ahead of them. The dragon seemed to be mindlessly fleeing from something. Everybody looked at its back. To their delight, they discovered that it was being pursued by a vast sky thunderous dragon. "Check it out," the old man quickly said. The other woman in the team was quick to take out a device the size of a laptop and activate it. The escaping dragon and the vast sky thunderous dragon giving chase were both recognized. "It's an adult with a high p-value and reasonably good stats. This is an excellent wild vast sky thunderous dragon," exclaimed the woman after reading the profile. Mia also checked the profile when she heard that. Her eyes instantly glittered with delight. The stats were indeed remarkable, they were as good as those of battle pets that had been trained frequently. It also happened to have a mid-void state cultivation, meaning that she would be able to sign a contract with it. It would have been better to find one in the advanced phase of the void state, but she couldn't be that picky. The aptitude also indicated the battle pet's power of understanding, which was the hardest attribute to improve. Any treasure that could increase a battle pet's power of understanding was heartbreakingly expensive. "I'll have it. Help me catch it," said Mia quickly. Everybody had noticed that the beast was definitely suitable for Mia. They were also quite interested in it. It would be a great beast if any of them caught and trained it. It might even grow into an ultra-quality vast sky thunderous dragon. Unfortunately, they had to abide by the contract and help Mia catch it. "Let's go. Surround it from the sides." The old man issued a set of quick orders. He was a mid-fate state warrior, while the deputy captain was at the early fate state. The other 3 members were advanced void state fighters. They were a strong team, which was why Mia had paid a great amount of money to hire them. The old man wasn't careless, although they were only hunting a void state beast. Whoosh! The deputy captain was quick as he took action, flashed to where the vast sky thunderous dragon was at a high speed. He no longer minded to use powerful skills because of the great battle from earlier, simply compressing space and trying to restrain the dragon. The vast sky thunderous dragon then noticed the human too and panicked. It sensed that the human beings were all stronger than itself. Hooray! It roared and unleashed a skill that had a supermassive coverage. Chaotic lightning bolts burst out around its body like slithering snakes, cracking the formerly locked space. That was a Fate State skill. The deputy captain was surprised by the vast sky thunderous dragon's resistance, as it had grasped a Fate State skill while still being a Void State being. It was stronger than most of the beasts of its level. The old man then flashed closer as well and raised his hand, extinguishing all the lightning bolts. After that, space was condensed again and the dragon was frozen. Right when the senior warrior was about to take it to Mia for her to complete the contract, an angry roar came from behind. The space confining the dragon was torn apart. The warrior's expression changed as he looked back. There were 4 dragons flying toward him. All of them were in the advanced Fate State creatures. Oh no! Run! The old man was shocked by the sight. He then reacted at a fast speed. The deputy captain was also scared, not expecting to see that many Fate State dragons show up. The other teammates were originally planning to take action, but then chose otherwise upon seeing the way things unfolded. They surrounded Mia and said, "Ms. Mia, we have to retreat." Mia's face was pale due to shock. She had a family treasure that could teleport her out. She then took it out, ready to take everybody along with her. She had the courage to explore the woods with mercenaries because she had a trump card. It was exactly at that moment when a loud dragon roar resounded. The 4 vast sky thunderous dragons looked back when they heard the roar, only to be flabbergasted, as the monster that had just fought their chief was approaching. They were so frightened that they tore space apart to make a run for it. The unexpected scene stunned the old man, Mia, and the other teammates who were ready to leave. What is going on? 2 dragons approached them soon after. One of them was carrying Suaping on one of its shoulders, while the other one was a vast sky thunderous dragon that was following them. Hey! Suaping detected a familiar aura from the crowd. Upon closer look, he found that it belonged to Mia who had visited his shop. She's here? As he remembered what she had said when she left the shop, Suaping thought it was miraculous to have met again in that place, even though the rumbling Thunder Continent had a vast territory. Boss Su. Mia also saw Suaping, who was riding one of the dragons. Her eyes widened with shock. Why on earth is Suaping here? Hi, what a coincidence! Suaping flew closer and then got off from the Inferno dragon, then he greeted Mia with a smile. Mia unconsciously asked, "Why are you here?" "For restocking, if you know what I mean." Suaping smiled. He then looked at her teammates, only to find that they were all strong warriors. He immediately said with a smile, "Hi, are you here to hunt vast sky thunderous dragons? They'll be available in my shop. Feel free to check them out." They were all stupefied to find that Suaping was only an ocean state warrior. Is he hiding his cultivation, or is something else going on? An ocean state fellow dared to make the trip over? They also noticed that Suaping had just flown out of the thunderous woods. Had the guy just gone deep into the woods? Someone else quickly noticed the battle wounds on the vast sky thunderous dragon following the Inferno dragon. It was obviously a Fate State beast. This guy. He's indeed pretending to be weak. None of the mercenaries commented on it, as the man was obviously of a high level. None of them was able to see through his disguise. At this moment, the still unsettled deputy captain looked in the direction the dragons took to escape, fearing that they would suddenly come back. The old man then looked at Suaping and asked solemnly, "Was it because you were coming?" After hearing that, everybody else looked at Suaping in shock. Did the man scare off the dragons? How is it possible? Those were advanced Fate State dragons, unstoppable creatures in their habitat. Suaping couldn't have intimidated them unless he was a Star State warrior. But sure enough, if Suaping were truly a Star State warrior, he wouldn't have gone there to catch vast sky thunderous dragons. After all, that was not a beast favored by those at the Star State. There were stronger Star State beasts that suited them better as pets. "They're probably in a hurry for some reason," said Suaping with a smile. Everybody looked at each other in bewilderment, at a loss for words. In a hurry? Were they in a hurry to pee? All of them looked at Suaping suspiciously, thinking about all kinds of speculations. Mia also found it perplexing. She thought that Suaping's arrival was related to the dragons making a run for it, but it would have been appalling if he was indeed the reason why they left. "Have you caught the vast sky thunderous dragon that you came here for?" asked Suaping with a smile. She was one of his customers anyway. He also felt like talking to her after their serendipitous encounter in the wild. Mia hurriedly looked at her target. She discovered that the dragon was trying to sneak away. "Help me catch it," said Mia quickly. The old man quickly took action. There was no disturbance of other beasts this time, and the fleeing dragons were long gone. So, the creature was soon caught and bound in front of Mia. "Ms. Mia, this vast sky thunderous dragon has a great aptitude. You'd better sign a contract with it now," said the old man with a smile. They would be able to head back if the mission was accomplished. Mia couldn't wait any longer either, quickly establishing a contract with the dragon. Suaping appraised her dragon, only to discover that it had a low-high aptitude. It wasn't one of the best pets, considering the boost of its combat ability. "Okay." Suaping shook his head while clearly uninterested. He said to Mia, "I'm going to do some more hunting. See you soon." Mia was enthused as she observed her new catch. She snapped out of it once she heard what he said, then replied, "Okay, Boss Su, see you. Maybe I'll train the battle pet I just got in your place." "No problem." Suaping made an okay gesture and then flew to again sit on one of the Inferno Dragon's shoulders. He waved goodbye to them and continued flying forward. The Fate State Dragon behind him moaned, but had no choice except to follow him. It was quickly defeated by Suaping. Suaping pointed his sword at its head and forced it to surrender, so it had to. It stood no chance of defeating a human who had mastered the power of laws. At first it thought it could be saved once it saw the clan's elders, but the elders ran off the moment they saw Suaping. The situation was hopeless. Suaping didn't sign a contract with the dragon, he was only intimidating the beast with his strength. After all, he was only at the ocean state. His brain might explode if he were to sign a contract with a Fate State pet. Suaping flew straight back to the base he came from once he got out of the woods, as he had accomplished his primary mission. It would be great if he could hunt more vast sky thunderous dragons on his way back, but he didn't intend to spend too much effort in searching for them. After all, it was more important to return to his shop and restart his business. He would be able to buy the Thunder Ocean fruit if he could earn another 26 million energy points before the store renewed itself 2 days from then. On the way, mountains and rivers fleeted under his feet. Soon after, Suaping reached a basin around a long stretch of mountains. There was a great number of thunderous trees in the basin. Those trees could be found everywhere in the rumbling Thunder continent, but the forest at the foot of the thunderous Dragon Mountain was the largest one. It was as huge as a continent on the blue planet. Boom! All of a sudden, noises of battle were heard in the basin. Dragon roars resounded, then 3 vast sky thunderous dragons were seen flying out of the forest's edge. They unleashed a mass of lightning bolts that bombarded the forest. Suaping was quite intrigued. He simply had the Inferno Dragon fly over. Since he had found them, he would certainly aim to tame all of them and make the most of his ticket's worth. 4 humans, all of them radiating astral light, were fighting while putting their best effort. A middle-aged man among them suddenly gave a command, "I'll hold it back. You should retreat with Karina first." The expressions of the other 3 humans quickly changed. Karina, the youngest among them, said with bloodshot eyes, "Benson, we're leaving together." Yes. Harry, the other man, added quickly. Boom. Benson pushed his hands forward and blocked an enormous lightning bolt. He tore apart the secondary space and roared at his partners, "Are all of you planning to die here?" It wasn't easy for Karina to be admitted by the Humia Academy. She has great potential, she can't die here. Karina said with a pale face, But. Harry, take her away and protect her even at the cost of your life, demanded Benson. All his partners looked awful, they had never seen Benson looking that cool before. Brother Benson, take care. Harry clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. He then said to Karina, You heard Brother Benson. Let's go. Karina's eyes were red, hot tears flowing out. She knew she would only be a liability even if she stayed. Even though she was quite strong and could fight against void state beings, the three dragons were in the advanced phase of the void state and were too powerful for her. Whoosh! She stepped forward and was about to escape through the secondary space. Exactly at that moment, a loud and aggressive dragon roar announced the arrival of another beast. It was so loud that the humans' ears were shivering and their blood was running fast. Benson, who had been struggling to resist the attacks, was terrified. He exclaimed, A fate state vast sky thunderous dragon. The peak of despair was seen in his eyes. The intimidating roar clearly belonged to a fate state vast sky thunderous dragon. He could easily tell that much. He was deeply saddened by the situation. Are we all going to die here? He would have felt better if he were alone, but Karina was so young, and she had just been admitted by the Humia Academy. She had a promising future and might eventually grow to reach the fate state or even the star state. The other humans were so awed by the dragon roar that they couldn't even move. The intimidation of the fate state made them feel as insignificant as ants. The three vast sky thunderous dragons in the sky stopped their attacks and looked at a certain place with fear. Two dragons were flying over. One was rather small and was only 30 meters long, while the other one was more than 200 meters long, which looked like a moving mountain. Its unfolded wings produced a shadow that covered the entire forest. Hey! Suaping, while riding on the Inferno Dragon's shoulder, suddenly found that the humans in the forest were actually familiar. He had met them on the plain earlier. Suaping's face had a weird expression when he saw their pale faces. He didn't expect to see them in trouble. Harry, hello, Suaping greeted him with a smile. The four terrified humans were stunned after hearing Suaping's voice. The sense of surprise changed to shock when they saw him riding the Inferno Dragon. It's him. He's the guy from the plane. Hee. Is that vast sky thunderous dragon his pet? All of them were confused by the sight. They didn't expect to meet the ocean state young man there, with the horrifying fate state vast sky thunderous dragon in tow. Didn't he claim that he was in the ocean state? Harry was stunned for a moment and then wore a bitter smile. It had truly been stupid of him to have invited Suaping to hunt with them. Nobody who dared to explore the rumbling thunder continent on their own was ordinary. Harry believed that Suaping was lying when he said he was an ocean state warrior because he didn't want to expose his real level. Harry even thought that Suaping might have even changed his appearance with the help of special drugs. Such elixirs weren't uncommon in the Federation, many female battle pet warriors loved them. Benson, who had merged with his pet and had blue spots all over his skin, was stunned, too. He had originally hesitated when Harry invited Suaping to his team, mainly because the young man was an outsider and his level was lacking. He didn't know that Suaping's pet was a fate state vast sky thunderous dragon. The pet alone could have him easily. Karina looked at Suaping in shock. She didn't have much respect for Suaping while they were on the plane. Although he seemed to be her age and was at her level, she was already a student in the Humia Academy, which wasn't something that her every peer could accomplish. Suaping smiled after seeing how dazed they were. He then sent a telepathic message to the Fate State Dragon, I'll have these three of your compatriots too. They're all yours to command. Make sure they're obedient. The Fate State Dragon's heart was pounding. Regardless of its high rank, Suaping was commanding it as if it were a tool. However, it still didn't dare to resist. Roar! Roar! The vast sky thunderous dragon roared and spoke to the three shivering dragons, basically telling them that they were under arrest. They would have to listen to the human obediently, or else they would be killed. The three dragons were rather shocked. They observed Suaping for a long time, but only found that he was an ocean state human. Nevertheless, they were still scared. They did not dare doubt Suaping's combatability when their fellow Fate State Dragon had spoken on his behalf. If he were weak, why would such a strong dragon run errands for him? Suaping was rather satisfied to see how panicked the three dragons were. He ignored them, then asked Benson and the other humans on the ground, "You're here to catch the vast sky thunderous dragons? Have you captured any?" Benson and his teammates were speechless after hearing Suaping's words and looking at the panicky dragons shivering like chickens. The prospect of seeing Suaping intimidate three horrifying vast sky thunderous dragons without doing anything had never crossed their minds. The strength gap between them made them feel bitter. "Not yet. We were tracking a vast sky thunderous dragon and meant to capture it here, but then we were ambushed," replied Harry, who had been the one who talked the most with Suaping. Benson also nodded. He no longer dared to be condescending anymore after witnessing Suaping's strength. He seemed quite odd. Annalisa, on the other hand, had glowing eyes as she observed Suaping. Karina wore a conflicted expression, there was no telling what was on her mind. "Is that so? This is the mating season for their kind. Those three male dragons were probably setting up a trap to catch hunters in order to protect their children." Suaping chuckled. Harry and the others were stunned and slightly perplexed. How did he know that the three dragons were males? Also, were the vast sky thunderous dragons smart enough to know about ambushing and counter-hunting? Don't underestimate beasts, they're very smart. They are more experienced predators than we are, said Suaping with a smile. "I recommend that you buy them in my shop instead, if you have the money. That would be a much safer choice. These dragons will be sold in my shop soon, and at quite a reasonable price. Several dozen billion should be enough." The other four humans looked at each other in bewilderment after hearing what he said. Harry couldn't help but ask, "Senior Su, what do you do for a living?" "I run a pet shop. I'm here to restock." Suaping smiled. The humans present were speechless. A man able to suppress a Fate State Dragon was a pet shop owner? Wasn't the job beneath him? However, when they remembered that many of the top pet shops had Fate State or even Star State experts who helped them capture beasts, they realized that Suaping's shop was probably a big one, with branches across planets or even solar systems. Only several billion. Karina couldn't help but ask while the expressions on her face changed non-stop. Suaping nodded with a smile. "They're just ordinary pets. They won't be too expensive." The whole group was left speechless, their lips twitching. Are the vast sky thunderous dragons really ordinary pets? They looked at each other speechlessly, not entirely recovered from the shock of the previous experience. They would have been doomed if Suaping hadn't helped in time. They would be much safer if they chose to return with Suaping. "Well, Senior Su, you just said that the vast sky thunderous dragons will be sold in your shop. How about you sell them to us right now?" proposed Benson. Since Suaping had said that they would be put for sale, it would be better to buy the dragons immediately to increase Karina's combat abilities. The other three looked at Suaping, with hopeful, glittering eyes. Harry quickly said, "Senior Su, how much would they go for? Just set a price." Suaping had shown enough power to convince them that he couldn't be an ocean state warrior. So, they had begun to regard him as a senior even though he looked young. Suaping shook his head and said, "Those wild beasts' aptitudes are too mediocre. I have to train them first before I sell them." "Well." The others were astounded. "These dragons have mediocre aptitudes? But you've just caught them. How could you tell? Besides, the vast sky thunderous dragons were popular pets, every one of them could be sold easily on the market. The talented ones among them had distinguished themselves in some of the major contests. Well, Harry was going to say that he was fine with mediocrity, but then Benson dropped a hint to dissuade him. Harry suddenly realized what was going on once he saw Benson's eyes. What Suaping had said was obviously an excuse. Those wild dragons hadn't been appraised yet, how good they were was still to be seen. They had to be examined first, so they could be sold at the most appropriate price. To put it simply, Suaping wanted to give them a brush up before he sold them. That was also what most pet shops did. Harry soon got it and no longer pursued the matter. We'll continue our journey and see if we can catch any lone vast sky thunderous dragons. We have to earn the ticket fee anyway, said Benson to Suaping with a smile. Sure. Suaping decided to stop chatting at that point. He wouldn't mind guarding them on the way if they chose to go back with him, but if they still wanted to try their luck, so be it. Suaping sent a telepathic message to the Fate State Dragon, asking it to keep the three younger dragons in check, before he flew while riding the Inferno Dragon in the lead. The hunting group watched as he left, all of them had conflicted expressions. Karina kept her eyes on Suaping's departing figure while she said to Benson, "Cousin Benson, should we keep looking? Maybe we should just pay for one." The main reason for them to be there was to find a suitable vast sky thunderous dragon for her. She would be overwhelmed by guilt if anything happened to them on the trip. Benson withdrew his gaze and took a deep breath, before he said, "Although the beast is going to be available in that guy's shop, we don't have a lot of money, we should save it whenever we can." He just said that the vast sky thunderous dragons might have intentionally exposed themselves in order to lure us into their trap. I think it's true. This means that many more dragons are probably hiding in the forest and setting many traps to protect their females and offspring. I think we can look around in the area and try to catch a stray beast when other planet pioneers are hunting. $1 billion would be saved if we can catch one. The money we save will serve for your expenses in the genius-filled Humia Academy. Our family is not as rich as others, let's use money wisely." After hearing that, Karina bit her lips and said, "Cousin Benson, I'll try my best to become the best in my grade. I'll do my best." Benson looked at her, with tenderness showing on his chiseled face. He said, "Silly. You cannot achieve everything with hard work. Resources are sometimes hundreds of times more useful than effort. Money is just as important." Harry and Annalisa looked at each other and stopped wavering. They said to Karina, "Yes, Karina, just listen to Cousin Benson. You'll be at least a Fate State expert when you graduate, if not a Star State one. You will be the most brilliant star in our family by then. Everybody will be so proud of you." Karina bit her lips as she looked at them, choosing to stay silent. Noticing her heavy mood, Benson rubbed her head and chuckled. "Relax. We can always buy one in Senior Sue's shop if we can't catch any. I don't think he'll rip us off, and even if he does, it won't matter. We can think of it as repaying a favor." Karina nodded and said, "Okay." Suaping was rushing over to the base while Benson and the others resumed their hunting. The little skeleton is several thousand kilometers in the east. Are those people hunting there? While sitting on the Inferno Dragon's shoulder, Suaping sensed the presence of the little skeleton, even though it was rather distant from where he was. However, it wouldn't take too long if he really wanted to go there. Suaping wasn't intending on going, though. He hadn't detected much in terms of feelings and fluctuations through the contract's bond. There hadn't been any danger thus far. The Star State Dragon King had been wounded, soon deciding to escape. It was probably focusing on healing at the moment. There was nothing in that place that could threaten the little skeleton's life, as long as the Dragon King didn't show up. As he thought about that, Suaping went straight to the air bases to arrange his departure. There were 4 bases in the Rumbling Thunder continent set up for departures. The 4 had been set in the 4 cardinal directions. Many planet pioneers were gathered in the eastern base. All of them had made the trip to catch vast sky thunderous dragons. What's the hurry? It's not the peak of the vast sky thunderous dragon's mating period yet. You have to wait for 2 more days. You'll only get killed if you go out right now. The male vast sky thunderous dragons are all on patrol right now. Don't fight until the females of their kind are giving birth. Stop talking, and just let idiots be killed already. They're just rookies who don't know the rules of this place. The base was quite crowded, frictions and conflicts among the explorers were inevitable. Look, the golden flag dragon hunters. They caught 2 more vast sky thunderous dragons. Boy, they've earned several billion with this haul. Everybody at the base was exclaiming when a 5-man squad returned. They rode 3 flying pets and were being followed by 2 vast sky thunderous dragons. The 2 dragons were in chains, pulled by the warriors and unable to resist. The chains had been specifically designed to capture their kind. They could lock the dragon's spirit and energy, thus preventing them from using their skills. Tisk, tisk. 2 of them are void state beasts. I can't tell how strong they are. They must be at least in the advanced phase of the void state. All the explorers were amazed by the dragons. Each of those beasts was worth at least 2 billion. The price would be doubled if their parameters indicated that they were excellent wild pets. Someone, however, remarked in disdain, the golden flag dragon hunters are experienced people who hunt in this continent all year long. They are also supervised by a fate state expert. Doesn't that make it easy to hunt void state dragons? Such a result was only an appetizer to the golden flag dragon hunters. It wasn't really surprising. Look, someone else is back. Wow, is it a group of beasts? So many. All of a sudden, exclamations were heard all over the base. Something which appeared to be a cloud was approaching them from high in the sky. Underneath the cloud were 10 vast sky thunderous dragons. They were so massive that they looked like a floating mountain range. It was a splendid sight to see the 10 dragons flying in parallel. Hey! The old man who led the golden flag dragon hunters heard the exclamations and turned around, frowning. His pupils contracted when he saw the number of dragons approaching. Thanks to his ample experience, he could easily tell from their sizes that at least 3 of them were at the fate state. Plus, one of them was so enormous that its wings could almost shadow half of the base. It was undoubtedly an advanced fate state dragon. Are those dragons at the fate state? Could it be a beast attack? It seems unlikely, they never come here. Look, that's a human. Which dragon hunter managed to catch that many vast sky thunderous dragons in one go? And none of them is chained. The golden flag dragon hunters were completely astounded. I'm finally back. So Ping looked at the base and calculated the time while standing on the Inferno dragon's shoulder. It had taken him 2 hours to return, mainly because taming the vast sky thunderous dragons that he had come across on the way back had delayed him. There are a lot of humans here. Just be obedient and don't cause trouble, said So Ping to the 10 vast sky thunderous dragons, mainly to the advanced fate state dragon. That particular dragon opened its mouth and spoke in an old and bitter voice, "My lord, we won't cause any trouble. We only hope you can find a good master for us." They had already given up the moment So Ping caught them. Why didn't they resist? So Ping could have killed them instantly with his horrifying strength. They would have died even before they could put up a fight. They would never dare to fight back, at all. After all, they were so enormous that they would fill up half of the base if all of them landed. "Wait here. I'll get the paperwork done," instructed So Ping. The 10 vast sky thunderous dragons stayed in the sky obediently. So Ping landed and went to the island's departure office. He said, "I'd like to leave for the island." "Just you alone? Or have you caught any beasts?" The young female receptionist behind the counter glanced at So Ping. So Ping replied, "I captured 10 vast sky thunderous dragons. Do they have to take a separate flight?" The receptionist was obviously stunned. After confirming that he wasn't joking, she asked with widened eyes, 10 vast sky thunderous dragons? Are you serious?" Do I seem to be kidding? Snapped Suaping angrily. The receptionist quickly changed her expression and said with a smile, Sir, what are the levels of the 10 vast sky thunderous dragons you caught? If they're below the ocean state, the shipment cost will be 10 million each. If they're in the ocean state or above, the cost will be 50 million. Above, said Suaping briefly, while he secretly complained in his heart. I have to pay 500 million to leave the island? 50 million each? If he weren't only talking to a minor receptionist who wouldn't dare to fool him, he would have suspected that he was being ripped off. The receptionist was clearly shocked. 10 vast sky thunderous dragons above the ocean state? The local dragon hunters had hardly made such great achievements. In that case, you only need to pay 100 billion to head to the island. The receptionist became respectful and spoke with alluring eyes. Any man able to hunt 10 vast sky thunderous dragons was too powerful for a receptionist such as her, even though she was from the Rein family. Sure. Suaping transferred the money quickly, not wanting to waste any more of his time. He followed the receptionist's instructions and completed the procedure to leave the island. Take this piece of paper and the beasts you've caught to the departure square over there. Someone will be with you shortly to help with the boarding, said the receptionist with a charming smile. Suaping nodded. Suaping returned to the place where the vast sky thunderous dragons were, carrying the certificate imprinted with the Rein family emblem. He found that there were a lot of dragon hunters in the sky when he returned. All of them were hunted. There's no contract aura in them. They're all wild. The dragon hunters observed the vast sky thunderous dragons with obvious greed in their eyes. Every vast sky thunderous dragon could be sold for at least 1 billion. Those at the void state could even be sold for 3 and even 4 billion. The fate state dragons were worth 10 or 20 billion. The battle pet warrior profession was a costly one. The pets, their training, and the top secret techniques were all expensive. It was exactly because of the huge expenses that many people had been developing desolate planets as planet pioneers or hunting rare pets for money. We'll take these 2 fate state dragons. One of the squads suddenly stood out. It was a 7-member group. Their leader, a middle-aged man, emitted a powerful aura. He was obviously a fate state warrior. 3 vortices surfaced above his head, the aura of fate state pets was spread out. Ocean state beasts and above were hardly able to defeat battle pet warriors of the same level. This was because battle pet warriors were able to merge with their pets, thereby doubling their combat abilities, and would also have the help of other pets. A fate state battle pet warrior could have 5 fate state battle pets. Those from the major families would even have pets on par with their level, and they purchased equipment for all the pets to increase their combat ability. All of this, together with their secret techniques, made them much stronger than the beasts that fought on their own. The other people who saw the fate state middle-aged man noticed who he was and their expressions changed. Carlson, they have an owner, said an old man, who was the captain of the Golden Flag dragon hunters that had just returned. The middle-aged Carlson chuckled and said, Are you blind? These vast sky thunderous dragons have no contracts nor chains. They're ownerless. They can be claimed by whoever subdues them. The others who heard this also had glowing eyes. Even though they were slightly awed by Suaping who had tamed 10 dragons, he was working on his own anyway. So, they could compete for the dragon's ownership. It might be a dangerous thing to do, but it was still much safer than searching for the vast sky thunderous dragons in the woods. At this moment, an indifferent voice said, Is that so? Who wants to claim the pets that I've caught? Everybody was slightly alarmed. They turned their heads, only to see that a black-haired young man holding departure papers was approaching with a cold face. The owner is here. Everyone observed Suaping cautiously. The middle-aged man knew that a conflict with Suaping was inevitable. He fearlessly chuckled while he looked at Suaping. Brother, it was quite skillful of you, catching this many vast sky thunderous dragons in one go. This makes me think that it was an easy thing for you. Still, it would be inconvenient for you to leave with all of them. Why don't you give me 2 of them? Suaping almost felt like laughing after hearing such a proposal. Indeed, it wasn't hard for me to catch them, but... Suaping sneered and looked at him. Who do you think you are? Why should I give anything to you? Carlson became gloomy. He replied, Brother, you don't look very familiar to me. It's better to make friends instead of foes when you're not on your home turf. Do you think a piece of garbage deserves to be my friend? Suaping moved closer and declared, Get the hell out of here before I do anything to you. You're asking to be killed. Carlson was quite grim and angry. He was a Fate State warrior, yet Suaping showed no respect for him at all. Boom! He was about to merge with his pet. He had noticed that Suaping wasn't easy to deal with. At least, he couldn't tell his true level. As for the ocean state he had perceived, it was definitely a disguise. Roar! There was a behemoth right behind him, covered in black fog. As it crawled out of the vortex, it reeked of blood and rotten fish. It then roared and moved towards Carlson's body, ready to merge with him. You think you're strong enough to fight me? Die! Suaping coldly pointed his finger. Divine light surrounded his fingertip. A stream of highly compressed sword aura burst out in the blink of an eye, darting out of the secondary space with unstoppable momentum. Space confinement. Purple glorious secret. Carlson's pupils were contracted when he noticed the sword aura shot by Suaping. His abundant battle experience gave him a bad feeling. He quickly froze the surrounding space to weaken the sword aura, while he performed his own battle technique as a countermeasure. However, while he was still preparing his secret technique, the space he had frozen to slow down Suaping's attack was torn apart as if made of paper. The sword aura made contact and Carlson's head exploded, blood splashing everywhere. The behemoth that was about to enter his body as a fog returned to its original form, as the fusion had been disrupted. It was impossible for the fusion to proceed since its master was already dead. The contract between them had also been annulled. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Only 1 second had passed from the moment when Suaping pointed at Carlson and when the latter's head exploded. Everybody was shocked to hear the sound of the explosion. They looked at the source, only to find that Carlson's head was gone. They were too astounded for words. An instant kill. Carlson, a mid-Fate State warrior, had been killed by Suaping with a finger attack. That was the power of laws. The old man among the golden flag dragon hunters narrowed his eyes in shock. Even though Suaping's sword aura was gone, the power of laws still lingered in the air. Only Fate State warriors could have perceived that. The power of laws. Could he be? The other dragon hunters also looked at Suaping, both awed and fearful. To kill a Fate State warrior with the power of laws before he could merge with his pet was probably something that only the Star State experts were capable of. Suddenly, the old man among the golden flag dragon hunters fell to his knees. It's an honor to meet you, Senior. Apologies for the offense. Even though they didn't do anything, the very fact that they were in the vicinity was an indication of their malicious purposes. Hilariously enough, they had been planning to rob a Star State expert who could have easily razed the entire base to the ground. Even the Rein family, the rulers of the planet, would have to courteously welcome Star State experts whenever they paid a visit. After all, it was always better to have a friend than a foe. After hearing the old man, the other Fate State warriors began to sweat profusely. All of them followed suit, immediately kneeling and begging for forgiveness. Once the Fate State hunters knelt, their teammates standing behind them came back to their senses and paled as they quickly imitated the gesture. It was horrifying. Carlson had been killed with one finger. That was beyond their imagination. Everybody was regretting their stupidity. How could someone able to catch 10 powerful vast sky thunderous dragons be ordinary? Still, they didn't see it coming. The man was a Star State big shot who mastered the power of laws. These kinds of people were normally lords ruling over planets. Everybody was on their knees, while Suaping was the only one standing, making him look even more magnificent. He coldly glanced at the other battle pet warriors, choosing not to say a word. Then, he spoke to the fate state vast sky thunderous dragon telepathically, "Come with me." The 10 dragons were just as shocked after seeing Suaping's attack, becoming further discouraged from resisting. All of them flew obediently after him. When Suaping was walking away, the explorers who were kneeling in his path slid to the sides while still on their knees, not daring to block him. Once Suaping had taken the dragons to the departure square with his hands on his back, all the people present finally felt that their bodies were no longer as numb as before. Their backs were covered in cold sweat. No wonder he didn't use contracts or chains. He doesn't need any chains. I wouldn't have resisted either if I were one of the dragons. So horrifying. Is that what the star state experts are capable of? Killing a fate state warrior was no different from killing an ant for him. Everybody stole looks toward the way Suaping took to leave, still soaked in cold sweat. Then, they quickly dispersed, not daring to stay too long. They thought that there would be a fierce battle. Little did they expect that the famous Carlson would be killed so fast. His teammates didn't even dare to fetch his body, fearing that they might piss off the star state expert if they did so. Everybody began to speak noisily after Suaping left. On the other side, at the departure square, Suaping had arrived with 10 dragons. The 10 vast sky thunderous dragons behind him attracted everyone's attention. All the people present looked at him with shock. 10 dragons in a single hunt was definitely a major harvest. Besides, quite a few of those dragons were at the fate state. How strong would the hunter have to be so he could catch them? Everybody looked at Suaping with awe. Some of them prudently scanned for Suaping's level, only to find that he was displaying an ocean state aura. This made them sweat hard in an instant. The ocean state level was obviously his disguise, they were unable to discern his actual strength. Furthermore, there was a chance that Suaping might have detected their scanning. Everyone soon decided to withdraw their senses. Suaping glanced at them and landed on the square. 10 dragons were hovering above his head and shadowing the square. This frightened the other people's vast sky thunderous dragons and beasts so much that they moved aside. The dragons caught by others were shocked to see the 10 new arrivals. They recognized the advanced fate state dragon. It used to be an elder of their clan. The elder had been captured by a human. "Elder, were you caught too?" "Yes. The human surely ambushed you with a trap. He's really obnoxious." "Yes. Elder, why aren't you chained? This is a good opportunity. You should run." "Elder, we'll cover you. Just run." "Elder, what's wrong? Why aren't you saying anything?" "Elder." The old dragon could no longer hold back. It suddenly roared, "Just shut the F***ck up." Roar. It sounded like a furious, meaningless roar to human beings. The intimidating dragon roar echoed throughout the square. All the battle pet warriors on the square were taken aback by the roar. They had finally noticed that Suaping's dragons were neither contracted nor chained. They were so frightened that they quickly used their defensive techniques in case the dragons went on a rampage. "Hey!" Suaping raised his head and frowned once he heard the roar. He obviously didn't understand the vast sky thunderous dragon's language either. He simply asked telepathically, "What's wrong? Are you planning to resist?" The old vast sky thunderous dragon became nervous and quickly replied upon hearing Suaping's telepathic question, "No, not at all, my lord. I wasn't talking to you, I was just teaching a lesson to an ignorant junior." Suaping raised his brows and gave a good look at the elder beast. Once he felt that the latter didn't lie, he said, "Keep your voice down and don't add to my troubles." "Yes, my lord." The vast sky thunderous dragon quickly nodded and apologized. It then looked at its supportive fellow dragons after the apology, merely rolling its eyes. "You are truly brainless. Don't we all know we're not chained, or that we have a chance to run away? The only reason we don't run is because we're too scared. You can't even see the obvious. You deserve to be caught." The dragon was quite angry. It had almost been criticized by Suaping because of them. The other dragons were dumbfounded. What's wrong with the elder? They were all at a loss. Two massive carriers descended from the clouds at that moment, stopping right above the plentiful dragons. Several men dashed out of the carriers and landed on the square. Some of them noticed the eye-catching dragons that Suoping had caught. All of them were shocked to see that those beasts were neither under contract nor chained. What's going on? Damn! They were so scared that they quickly circumvented the dragons. The 10 vast sky thunderous dragons were unrestrained, they could break free any time they wanted. Their faces became pale when they noticed that there were fate state dragons. Those dragons could destroy the entire base if they were angered. Guards! Where are the guards? What's going on here? The newcomers flew away and demanded angrily. Soon after, someone ascended to the sky and quickly explained the situation to them. The guards had already noticed the special circumstances of the 10 dragons and witnessed how Suoping had killed Carlson. None of them dared to ask him to restrain the dragons, fearing that they might anger him. Besides, it made sense that the 10 vast sky thunderous dragons were that obedient in front of a star state expert. They probably wouldn't do anything unless they wanted to get killed. The star state. The newcomers were shocked. They soon noticed Suoping in the square after being informed by the guards. They were awed and respectful. Whoosh, whoosh. All of them quickly flew over to meet with Suoping. It's an honor to meet you, senior. All of them bowed, ignoring everybody else around them. Suoping raised his eyebrows and realized that they must have learned of what he did a moment earlier. He said indifferently, "Don't make a fuss. This is my departure paperwork, I simply want to leave as soon as possible." "Yes, senior." "Senior, please wait a moment. We will install departure devices on your battle pets." They couldn't have been any more respectful. Suoping nodded and gave them permission. One of them quickly flew and approached the 10 dragons. He was inevitably nervous in their presence. After all, there was no way he could survive if they chose to attack him. Many of them were fate state dragons. Whoosh! That man took out many silver collars from a small storage device. The collars looked like machines but had joints that were made of energy. They were products that mixed machines with astral power. Once the collars were activated, they expanded and were then sent to the dragons, attaching to either horns or claws. The vast sky thunderous dragons were so massive that the collars could only work as rings for them, even though they had been enlarged. Once the collars were attached, they soon unleashed blue ripples that covered the dragons' bodies. "Senior, you can leave with your pets now. They can pass through the energy shield around the rumbling thunder continent with the IDs placed on them." A middle-aged man said to Suoping respectfully, "Senior, this is your device." He then turned his hand upside down and took out something that resembled a badge. He respectfully offered the badge to Suoping with both hands. Suoping accepted it. Then, it unleashed blue ripples that covered his body. The ripples had almost the same energy structure as that of the devices placed on the dragons. "Is that all?" Suoping was slightly surprised. "Yes," said the middle-aged man respectfully, "the battle pets above the ocean state can fly out as long as they have IDs. Those below the ocean state have to be shipped out, because the pressure near the periphery is so strong that the 9th rank beasts which are capable of flying cannot resist." Suoping nodded and said, "What should I do with the IDs once I get out?" "Someone will find you to collect them." The middle-aged man said with a smile, "There's a tracking system on the IDs. Please go to Krolin Island after you go out. Someone will receive you." Suoping understood and had no further questions. He simply flew to the head of the old vast sky thunderous dragon and said, "Come on. Fly straight up. I'll show you the world beyond the rumbling thunder continent." The 10 vast sky thunderous dragons had glittering eyes after hearing what Suoping said. But then, they looked back at the rumbling thunder continent affectionately. After all, it was their home. Alas, they couldn't stay. The 10 dragons followed Suoping's command and soared to the high skies. The travelers were finally relieved after seeing Suoping off. The last bit of their doubt was gone when they saw Suoping sit on the wild and unchained elder dragon that was in the advanced phase of the fate state. Who else could have been bold enough to do that except a star state expert? Whoosh! Suoping ordered the 10 dragons to fly out of the rumbling thunder continent. The IDs helped them to easily pass through the shielding covering the whole continent. Ahead of them was a sunny sky and a vast ocean. Is this the world outside? It was the dragons' first trip out of their hometown. Everything was new and interesting to them. Even the sea and the sky had amazed them, even though they were unadorned. Very soon, Suoping took them to Krolin Island. As the middle-aged man stated, some staff had soon shown up to retrieve the collars. The arrival of the vast sky thunderous dragons was quite a hit in Krolin Island. Many people moved closer to watch. However, all of them flinched and ran for it when they saw that the dragons were absolutely free from any restraint, fearing that they would go on a rampage and sink the island. There was little Suoping could do. He couldn't sign contracts with Fate State Pets, nor keep them in his storage space, so he could only let them swagger in reality. Once he escaped from the crowd, Suoping checked in for the departure trip, back to Wofet City. He discovered multiple shipping methods in the waiting hall. One of them was to ship the pets to any place he wanted with a designated plane. However, prices would be quite high depending on the pet's size and level of danger. It was Suoping's only choice. Flying was banned in all of Ria's cities. He couldn't fly back with the dragons, so he had them transported with the planes. After an evaluation, Suoping paid 200 million in total to move the 10 vast sky thunderous dragons back to Wofet. He then realized that the rulers of Ria were able to make a great fortune in many ways, with nothing but the rumbling thunder continent. It was quite profitable. Suoping was finally relieved once the 10 dragons were finally moved to his shop. It had been an exhausting trip. The battles weren't hard, but the complicated procedures during his return were somewhat tiring for him. It had also occurred to him that he was in dire need of a massive storage treasure. His scroll had been destroyed by the tree and couldn't be used anymore. He had to look for another space treasure, so that he could stash the beasts he caught inside it and then take a flight back home. That way, all his troubles could be saved. Everyone in the neighborhood became excited when the 10 vast sky thunderous dragons were delivered to his shop. Everybody on Ria was familiar with the look of such dragons. Their arrival caused quite a hit. Suoping took the 10 dragons into his shop and reduced their sizes through the shop's resizing mechanism. He then asked Joanna to lead them to the pet room first. Many customers followed the vast sky thunderous dragons into the shop. "Boss, are the vast sky thunderous dragons available? What's their price? How much are they? Can I pre-order now? Boss, where are the vast sky thunderous dragons? Can we see them?" The customers on the entire street had crammed Suoping's shop as if a big sale were in progress. Suoping wasn't too surprised. He had foreseen this when the dragons were being shipped over. He considered the 500 million shipment as an for himself. After all, he was still new to the place, he could attract a lot of customers with the 10 vast sky thunderous dragons. However, the system's rules still stood. He couldn't sell them even if he wanted to. "Guys, calm down. Those beasts have just arrived, they can't be sold until they're trained. If you're interested in purchasing, please come again tomorrow," said Suoping calmly while raising his hand to keep everybody's voice down. All the people in the shop were stunned. Many of them soon realized that the freshly arrived pets had yet to be groomed and evaluated first, there was no way they would be sold directly. "Boss, can I pre-order one? I can make the payment first." Several of the purple-haired locals kept on making those extravagant remarks. Suoping shook his head and said, "This shop doesn't accept pre-orders. You can come tomorrow if you want them." The guys who intended to pay in advance looked at each other in bewilderment. One of them suddenly said, "Boss, can you sell me one first? I don't mind if it's not trained. I can train it on my own." Just state your price. Suaping looked at the person who had just talked, only to find that he was a void state battle pet warrior. He was already an elite expert even on a developed place such as Ria. Sorry, but I do mind, replied Suaping. All the customers were discouraged by his response. Everyone was there for the vast sky thunderous dragons, none of them were interested in training or nurturing. They preferred to train their pets in shops they were familiar with, in case the pets were ruined in a bogus shop and would potentially have to seek compensation. Besides, pets were of critical importance to battle pet warriors, who would readily hand them over to a strange, random shop. The customers left one after the other. Soon after, the shop was half empty. The customers were mostly there to witness the selling of the dragons. All of them left once they learned that the dragons weren't available. After all, only a few people could really afford a vast sky thunderous dragon and establish a contract with it. Suaping wasn't bothered by the customers who had left. The dragons he had taken to the store had worked as the best for him, at least on that street. He would entice some of the customers into experiencing other services in his shop when the dragons were sold on the next day. It was at that moment that a seemingly interested young was curious about the services. He asked, "Boss, can you train void state pets?" Even though he had never been to Suaping's shop before, he was sure that whoever was able to get 10 vast sky thunderous dragons in one go was surely not someone qualifiable as simple. He perceived the shop's power and thought that it was probably being backed by a major corporation. Suaping looked at the young man and found that he was an ocean state warrior. He said, "I can train any pet below the star state." Any pet below the star state? The young man was slightly surprised, further convinced of his speculation. He asked, "What about the type?" "I intend to train a void state imprisoning winged dragon." It was another popular pet below the star state in Sylvie. It was a hybrid between demons and dragons. It was almost as strong as the vast sky thunderous dragon. Suaping smiled and said, "There are no restraints. You can train any type of pet here." The young man widened his eyes ever so slightly. "No restraints? That's quite remarkable. Every trainer had pets they were familiar with, they wouldn't train just any other pet. After all, there were hundreds of thousands of pet species. Each of the species would have its own features. A lot of time and effort was required to become familiar with those features." When Suaping claimed that he could train any type of pet, wasn't he meaning that there was a large group of trainers behind the shop? Is he collaborating with a certain trainers association? The young man thought quickly and attached even more importance to Suaping's shop. He didn't go to that street often, but he was a local resident in Wofet anyway and he had never heard about Suaping's shop, which could only mean that it hadn't been in business for long. After all, how could a shop capable of taking in 10 vast sky thunderous dragons be unknown in Wofet? Newly opened shops would always provide the best services at the beginning in order to attract more customers. That was the best time to pay them a visit. As he thought about that, the young man instantly asked, "Boss, how long will it take for you to train the pets?" "Half a day if you are in a hurry. If not, you can pick up your pet the next day," replied Suaping with a smile. Phileas was rather stunned. "Half a day, if I'm not in a hurry? 1 day, if not?" Was it pet training, or pet bathing? He had never heard that training could be completed that quickly, unless it was for the lowly pets of apprentices who had just become battle pet warriors. But he was hoping to train a void state pet. Not even a high-star master trainer could finish the training in such a short time. Phileas became suspicious of Suaping's shop for a moment. Suaping noticed the suspicion in the customer's eyes and felt rather helpless. He wondered if he had to keep the pet around for an additional week or a fortnight in order to please the customers. He would have done that to save time if it didn't affect him. However, those would take up a lot of space in his shop. Suaping could only try to persuade the customer. "Don't worry. The training will be short but definitely effective. Your pet will at least grasp a new skill, or have a slightly improved combat ability." His new shop wasn't too popular anyway, he was aiming to attract any customer he found. He would later have regular customers such as Mia, and his time and trouble could then be saved. Phileas was at a loss for words. He had felt a bit suspicious about Suaping's shop a moment earlier, but now he was almost certain that something was wrong with the shop. "You're telling me that half a day or one day of training is enough for my pet to learn a new skill, or to improve its combat abilities? Do you take me for a fool? How could a trainer be so good? Is this guy a 2-star Ultra, or a 1-star Ultra trainer?" However, there weren't any such trainers on the entire planet. 2-star Ultra trainers were rarely seen in the entire Zero-Prun solar system. The leader of the Laefa family, the ruler of that solar system, would never hesitate to visit them at their home. As for the 1-star Ultra trainers, there were only a handful of them in Sylvie. "Boss, I'm from the Moreno family," said Phileas to Suaping while staring at him. "Suaping, I'm offering to train your pet. Why are you telling me your family name? What do you mean?" Suaping looked at him peacefully. Phileas' rising fury suddenly faded as he looked at the calmness in Suaping's eyes. He then remembered the 10 vast sky thunderous dragons again. Judging from their sizes, at least 3 of them were fate state beasts. This shop. Phileas swallowed the doubts he was about to say out loud. He was truly uncertain. The shop owner could be a fraud, but was it necessary for him to trick anyone if he could get 3 fate state dragons in a single outing? Is this shop really backed by an ultra trainer? Phileas was deep in thought. He hesitated, just as if he were in the middle of a gambling game. "Hey, if it isn't Mr. Phileas!" At this moment, a mocking voice was heard near the door, then a young man in famous, fashionable clothes walked in. The watch on his wrist was of limited edition, and not just for ornamental purposes. Its inlaid energy formation was strong enough to resist a fate state attack. That watch could only be bought by those who were powerful and had connections. It was also a symbol of the upper class. The young man held a tall, beautiful woman who had purple long hair and a cold face. Still, there was tenderness in her eyes when she looked at her male companion. "Parks." Phileas turned around and saw the young man. Then, he became grim, with cold light flashing in his eyes. "Are you here to train your pet? A passerby just mentioned that this shop has 10 vast sky thunderous dragons. Is it true? Hey, are you the boss?" The latter half of his sentence was directed at Suaping. "It's true, but they won't be available until tomorrow," replied Suaping with a casual smile. "Really?" Parks stepped forward and smiled. "Boss, can you make an exception for me? I would like to buy one today, even if it means paying more. Money doesn't mean anything to me." He then glanced at Phileas and chuckled. "Are you training your pet here because you want to challenge me at the pet contest?" Phileas said coldly, "My goal is the top of Wofat City, and you're just a stepping stone in my eyes. You don't deserve to be my target." "Haha," Parks laughed and said, "You'll have to beat me first before you can brag about securing the top. What makes you think you can achieve that? You'll be using your imprisoning winged dragon that was defeated by me." Phileas clenched his fists and said coldly, "I was just careless. Losers always have excuses." Hilarious and pathetic, Parks shook his head with a smile and said to the pretty girl next to him, "You see? He's from the Moreno family. You should keep a distance from his family, still arrogant despite their declining state. They'll be destroyed soon." The pretty girl looked at Phileas curiously and pursed her lips with a smile after hearing that. She didn't say anything, but her smile made Phileas feel awful. "Boss, how about it? Are you going to sell me one or not?" Parks ignored Phileas and said to Suaping, "I can pay you another 100 million if you sell it to me today. How does it sound?" Suaping looked at the 2 customers who were evidently enemies, then said with a smile, "As I said, please come again tomorrow if you want to buy them. Besides, the prices of the pets in this shop are fixed. You can't pay any more, or any less." "Hey! Parks raised his eyebrows and looked at Suaping. Boss, that's quite a cocky rule. Suaping smiled. Rules are rules, and every customer in this shop has to abide by my rules. Parks narrowed his eyes and stared at Suaping. He eventually chuckled and said, since the boss refuses to earn extra money, so be it. I'll see if I'm in the mood to come here tomorrow. After all, unlike some people, I already have a vast sky thunderous dragon. He turned around as he spoke, walking away while holding the girl. Parks was arrogant but not stupid. The fact that Suaping's shop had obtained 10 vast sky thunderous dragons suggested that there was a major corporation or family backing him. It would be idiotic to piss off someone whose background was unclear. Being a descendant of a major family, Parks had been taught about those things since childhood. Arrogance alone would not allow him to grow. Suaping looked at Phileas after Parks left. The young man seemed to be suffering from constipation. He asked him with a smile, "What's the pet contest you mentioned? Are there any prizes?" Phileas seemed to have woken up from a spell of sorrow and fury. He looked at Suaping and replied with another question, "Boss, is your training really that fast and effective?" Suaping raised his eyebrows, unbothered by his question being left unanswered. He said, "I don't want to repeat myself. You can give it a go." Phileas gritted his teeth and said, "Okay." Then, he finally remembered Suaping's question and said rather awkwardly, "Sorry, I didn't answer your question. You don't know about the pet contest? It's a gala held on planet Rhea every 3 years. Is that so?" "I'm not very familiar with it," said Suaping, shaking his head. Phileas noticed Suaping's hair color and appearance. Realizing he was a foreigner, he added, "You must be new to this place, boss." The pet contest, as its name suggests, is a competition for pets. Their owners won't step in, pets have to fight on their own. The contest is divided into 3 categories: Ocean State, Void State, and Fate State. The top 10 contestants of each level will be awarded in the end. If you can secure the top place in any level, not only will you win a huge prize, you might also get the appreciation of the Star State experts. The Lord of our planet always invites his Star State friends to watch the finals. They tip the contestants generously. More importantly, your pet may become famous after a single battle. Phileas's introduction gave Suaping a better understanding of the competition. The pets would fight each other without the master's intervention? So, wouldn't the pet with the highest strength and aptitude be the winner of each category? Too bad the minimum requirement is the Ocean State. It's impossible for the little skeleton to participate, or they would have definitely had a lot of fun. Suaping was more or less regretful. However, the little skeleton seemed to be about to break through. If so, it would be possible for it to participate in the Ocean State category. Considering its aptitude, it wouldn't be hard to secure the top place. You can search it on the internet if you want to know more about it. You can receive abundant rewards in the regional and global rankings at every phase of the contest. If your pet is acknowledged as the worldwide best in its level, it will be given a fruit that can activate its power of understanding and raise its aptitude to an even higher level. The pet's owner would also be rewarded. You may get 10 million astral stones. Phileas announced with eager and jealous eyes. He knew it was already an extremely difficult goal for him to secure the top place in Wofet City. Parks, for example, was already a strong opponent. There were also a lot of other local experts. Astral stones. Suaping was slightly surprised. What were they? But he didn't ask. He would rather search for them with his Lord badge later. He didn't want to come off as an idiot if they were something elementary, scaring off the customer in the process. "Boss, I'd like to train an Ocean State green alligator," said Phileas. He didn't go with his imprisoning winged dragon. After all, Suaping's claim was too unbelievable. He wanted to try things out first. Suaping raised his eyebrows after hearing the guy's decision, realizing his purpose. Still, he chose to not comment on it, as it took time to win somebody's trust. "Okay. He quickly accepted the task. Phileas learned of the resizing mechanism in Suo Ping's shop when he summoned the pet and was slightly surprised by it. He immediately remembered the 10 vast sky thunderous dragons that disappeared in Suo Ping's shop, which made him feel more hopeful about the shop. If the training was truly as effective as Suo Ping claimed, he could have his pets trained there every day before the pet contest was held. Phileas snapped out of his mesmerized state long after Joanna returned to the pet room. The other customers in the shop were also too stunned to speak. Fantastic! Not the pet, but her. They had never seen such a gorgeous woman before. Not even Alice, the most popular star on Ria, was as naturally impeccable as Joanna. How could there be such an extraordinary woman in this world? Damn! She is really beautiful. Is she the boss's wife? Or is she the actual boss here? The customers whispered to each other in shock. The thought of her being an employee never crossed their minds. She could make tons of money with nothing but her face. Looks were very important in the entire universe. Everybody looked at Suo Ping with obvious jealousy. If she wasn't the boss, she could only be the boss's wife, which was even more heartbreaking. She deserves better. Phileas, who had finally realized his pet had been taken away, couldn't help but ask Suo Ping, "Be boss, is she your wife?" He suddenly envied his green alligator, wishing that Joanna had also taken him away just then. No, Suo Ping was never interested in talking about stuff unrelated to his business. He said, "The training price is 100 million per session. Make the payment." 100 million. Phileas shivered and was quickly sobered up. He looked at Suo Ping in shock. 100 million wasn't too much for him, but it seemed to be too high a price for one day of training. That was also the price for just one pet. He could make $1 billion every day if he received 10 customers, and 30 billion in a month. That was a horrifying revenue for a pet shop. Even the famous interstellar chains could only achieve such a mind-boggling income when all the branches were counted. None of the branches could earn 100 billion in a month, unless they were located in the best areas and supervised by ultra-trainers. Why? You don't have the money. Suo Ping frowned at Phileas's reaction. The man had an ocean state level anyway, and would have been seen as a legendary warrior on the blue planet. Every legendary warrior on the blue planet had tens of billions to their name. Well, I have the money. But, isn't the price a bit? Phileas was quite reluctant. 100 million per day was too big an expense for the declining Moreno family. He had learned to be thrifty whenever he could. You think it's too expensive? Suo Ping raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, "This is too cheap for the improvement the training will produce. Do you think you can go anywhere and pay 100 million to have your pet learn a new skill?" He was quite straightforward. He was also confident of his statement. The prices set by the system were too low. He knew full well that the training in his shop was the cheapest for the effects it gave. Other pet shops would require customers to invest 300 to 500 million for the same effect in a longer time. Phileas was stunned, not expecting Suo Ping to act this harshly towards a customer. "I'm a customer. The customer is king. Do you know what king means?" "Boss, I don't mind paying if the training is really as effective as you claim, but can I see the result of the training first?" "How about I make a down payment for now?" proposed Phileas. Even though Suo Ping's attitude wasn't likable, he didn't want to quit negotiating just yet. After all, the pet contest was about to take place. The blonde girl he saw in Suo Ping's shop wasn't Suo Ping's wife, so she very likely was the real owner of the shop, or maybe Suo Ping's sister. If she was Suo Ping's sister, then Suo Ping could eventually become his brother-in-law. Phileas was determined to spend more money in that shop for her alone, to hopefully become a VIP so that he could hang around with her more often. "You want to pay the rest later?" Suo Ping looked at the young man. He was quite handsome and he did seem to be of a reasonably high status. He didn't expect him to be that petty. "This shop only accepts full payments, don't come if you don't have money. You can leave with your pet right now if you think it's too expensive," declared Suaping coldly. Suaping had at first thought that the guy was rich. The latter had reported his family name and all, but he turned out to be poor. Even if he wasn't poor, he was still extremely petty. An ocean state warrior reluctant to pay 100 million for his pet training. Did he even deserve to be a battle pet warrior? Di Phileas quickly cried when Suaping was about to summon his pet. It would be too humiliating. The dazzling lady had taken his pet a moment earlier. What would she think of him if Suaping asked her to take the pet out? He was quite embarrassed at the mere thought of such a picture. It's just 100 million, I can pay that. I'm just used to paying by installments in other places. Phileas managed to smile although he was dissatisfied with Suaping. After all, it was quite natural to make a down payment first and then pay the rest when the training was over. However, Suaping was being too bossy, simply demanding to be paid in full. Nevertheless, he could think about the blonde woman he was determined to approach and pursue. It was clearly not a good idea to offend Suaping at this moment. Make the payment then, said Suaping expressionlessly. Phileas's lips twitched when he saw Suaping's face. He was spending money as a customer, but it almost seemed that he owed Suaping a sizable debt. Who was the customer and the king here? That being said, he held himself back for the beautiful woman's sake. Aside from his parents, the things a man could never let go of were battle pets and beautiful women. Phileas almost considered himself to be a loyal man, but he had just fallen in love with another woman moments earlier. Ding! Suaping received the transfer notification but remained cold. Being a fellow man, he could easily tell what was on Phileas' mind. It was inevitable that a beautiful clerk such as Joanna would be attractive to the customers. It was also one of the benefits of hiring her as his employee. He couldn't stop Joanna from releasing her charm. Still, he could only say that the guy was overthinking. Joanna had seen countless experts and unparalleled geniuses in the Archean divinity. She was too proud to accept those people. Besides, being a god, she considered humans as nothing but ants. Who would bother paying attention to ants? Even if that ant was spending money in the shop to show off wealth, it was a matter not worth mentioning to her, at all. But Suaping would certainly not point that out. Joanna was making contributions as an employee by attracting customers such as that guy. I can only say goodbye if there's nothing else I can help you with. Come fetch your pet tomorrow, said Suaping casually. Okay. Phileas nodded. Then, he thought of something and said, Boss, aren't you forgetting the receipt? This shop doesn't hand out receipts. I'll recognize you and give you your pet when you return, said Suaping. Phileas was dumbfounded. No receipt? What if you deny that you took my pet? Boss, we're talking about 100 million here. Please, at least write me a note, Phileas couldn't help but say. You think I'll trick you for a mere 100 million? You can always come back here. My shop is not going anywhere. Suaping rolled his eyes. The system never gave receipts. He gave receipts on the blue planet because he was familiar with the paperwork and could make counterfeits. Still, he preferred not wasting his time applying for receipts from the tax bureau in that place. Phileas wanted to say something, but then he held back. It didn't make sense that no receipts would be given. However, he had already handed out the money, and Suaping's shop was right there, unlikely to disappear. So, he thought for a moment and decided to let it go. He might leave a bad impression if the beautiful woman suddenly came out and saw that he was acting pettily. Well, it's just another habit that I've developed in other shops. Never mind. Phileas coughed and chuckled again. He would play the generous part since he was unable to get a receipt. Suaping said without even raising his eyes, the door's over there. Phileas felt like vomiting blood, as the boss's attitude was almost insufferable. He secretly gritted his teeth, determined to argue with Suaping right in front of the gorgeous woman the next day if the training turned out to be unsatisfactory. Then, he wouldn't demand any compensation, he would eventually let it go, to show that he was handsome and forgiving. When was a man most handsome? When he didn't care about money. He sneered at the thought, then left. Suaping couldn't care less about what the latter thought. He looked at the rest of the customers and asked, "Do you need anything?" The three customers looked at each other in bewilderment. They were also battle pet warriors too, but unlike Phileas, they didn't belong to any major families. While the Moreno family behind Phileas was declining in Wofat, it was still very powerful. Only a descendant from such a family could afford pursuing a hot girl with 100 million. As for them, they would rather save their money and buy the vast sky thunderous dragons the next day. Considering the flow of the day's events, many customers would definitely join the bidding. They would regret it if someone else beat them to the punch because they were short by several 100 million. Soon after, the three customers said goodbye to Suaping and promised that they would be there the next day. Suaping saw them out. Right when he was about to shut the door, more customers showed up to inquire about the vast sky thunderous dragons. They also had to leave after learning that the dragons wouldn't be available until the next day. Once he saw that there were no more customers, Suaping simply closed the shop for the day. The main goal was certainly not to train Phileas' pet. He was considering how to upgrade the services in his shop, plus strengthening the little skeleton and his other pets. He was also planning to make use of the pet aptitude book he had just acquired. King-level battle pets ranging from ocean to fate state can only go through regular training. To unlock the professional training option, I have to develop an ocean state battle pet with high aptitude first. However, to develop a high aptitude battle pet is difficult and time-consuming. It would be a huge waste of time if I were to develop a customer's pet, unless they paid enough money. It'll be much better if I can improve the little skeleton and my other pets to reach the ocean state and then train them. After all, I won't suffer any losses no matter how much I invest on my own pets. The Dark Dragon Hound had also improved from the mid-phase of the 9th rank to the advanced phase after being cornered by the Lord of the Deep Caves. As for the Purple Python, it was still in the 6th rank, although it did have an ocean state compatibility and high aptitude, it was still far away from the ocean state. Suaping didn't intend to improve its level either. After all, the lower the level, the easier the training. He intended to train the battle pet with the highest aptitude to unlock more system businesses. It's time to unlock the dragon heritage that has been sealed in the Dark Dragon Hound's body, Suaping thought. Of course, he was still unable to unlock it in its entirety. There were 9 seals inside the Dark Dragon Hound. It could break through all the way to the top of the fate state if all of them were lifted. However, a rapid increase of level could hardly be transformed into compatibility without proper wetting and polishing. It was one of the reasons why Suaping didn't remove the seals during the war against the Deep Caves uprising. Plus, he was only a 9th rank warrior back then, and even if he had lifted the seals, the hound would have only reached the advanced phase of the ocean state. The mere improvement of 1 level wouldn't have been significant on the battlefield. Unlike him, the Dark Dragon Hound would have only had 10 times more energy after reaching the ocean state. It would have been easily manipulated by their fate state enemies. You will be my first king-level battle pet. Suaping approached the Dark Dragon Hound and laid his hand on it. The Dark Dragon Hound was confused. The dragon soul's power hidden in its body was pulled out. It emanated a golden light which also radiated the aura of a dragon. Break! 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 Suaping broke 4 seals in a row. An abundant surge of energy was suddenly radiated by the pet's body, its fur became soft and smooth, as if soaked in water. Patches of fur were glowing from underneath, turning into gold. That was the awakening of the Heaven Expansion Dragon bloodline in its body. The Dark Dragon Hound became increasingly stronger when the seals were removed, soon breaking the limits and quickly rising up to the peak of the ocean state. The Dark Dragon Hound's eyes became brilliantly golden, as if they contained stars. There was also a minor confusion in its eyes. Not only was the hidden dragon bloodline awakened when the seals were broken, some of the hereditary information was also transmitted to the hound's mind. It was the legacy of the heaven expansion dragons that were surprisingly flying on an ancient desert. The memory was deeply etched into the dark dragon hound's head, making it feel as if it were a real heaven expansion dragon. It began to radiate the intimidating pressure of a dragon and even made the inferno dragon lower its head and look at its playmate. The air of dragons exuded by the dark dragon hound seemed even nobler than that of the inferno dragon. The inferno dragon would have been awed and scared by this if they didn't share an owner, having fought together for such a long time. The little skeleton glanced at the dog but showed no reaction. The purple python also looked curiously. Still, it had seen too many horrifying creatures since it started following Suaping. Even fate state beasts would have trembled in fear if the dark dragon hound were to release its draconic aura. Such an energy was extremely magnificent. The bloodline of the heaven expansion dragons was much greater than that of the star state. The old dragon who had transferred the legacy to the dark dragon hound only had a limited level of talent. It hadn't yet activated all its potential, only reaching the star state in the end. Not bad. Suaping nodded in satisfaction as he looked at the dark dragon hound's changes. He looked at his pet's stats again. Property, Dragon Family, 1/7 of Demon Bloodline, Rank, Peak of the Ocean State Combat Strength, 34.2 Aptitude, Mid-High Talent Skill, Elementary Agility Talent Bloodline Skills, Heaven Expansion Roar, Mid-Level Phantoming, Void Fire Skills, Wind Protection, Frost Protection, Fire Protection, Earth Protection, Thunder God's Armor. Dozens more. Its combat ability rose from 26 to 34. That's an 8-point improvement. Suaping was slightly surprised, but then found it understandable. After all, ascending from the advanced phase of the 9th rank to that of the ocean state would inevitably strengthen it. Maybe the pet can become stronger after digesting the legacy. The hound's previous combat ability was only normal in the void state. After all, it was already remarkable enough to fight void state creatures. Void state beasts weren't a threat, at all, unless they also had a high aptitude, including the ability to fight beyond their level. The mid-level phantoming can turn its body into a phantom, so that it'll be immune to any physical or energy attacks. Suaping was amazed by the dark dragon hound's skill. The 3 bloodline abilities were powerful and the hound had yet to become accustomed to the new power after the release of those seals. It would become an ultra fate state pet once it fully grasped the legacy. However, Suaping could only sign contracts with void state beasts at the moment. He would have to terminate the contract if he removed the rest of the seals. Now is the time for practicing and polishing. It has to digest the new power. Plus, I can teach my new skills to the pets. Suaping thought. He had only imparted the elementary agility talent. He had done that with the enlightening guide to activate their talents. Suaping currently had a middle rank acceleration guide, which was also an enlightening guide which could awaken a second talent. The middle rank acceleration guide and the elementary agility talent were both about speed, but they were based on different mechanisms. So, they could perform both skills like Suaping did. Suaping suddenly realized something. Why didn't the dark dragon hound cause a tribulation? The breakthrough to the ocean state would cause a heavenly tribulation. One had to go through it in order to reach the ocean state. However, the dark dragon hound had just reached the ocean state without enduring any tribulation. The tribulation will be temporarily nullified if you make a breakthrough in this shop, said the system indifferently. Suaping didn't know what to say. He was again awed by the almighty system. It could even nullify the heavens test? That was unimaginable. Suaping couldn't help but ask, will the dark dragon hound cause a heavenly tribulation if I let it walk out of the shop? The system said casually, yes, but you need to consider whether or not it's allowed for the tribulation to happen in public, let alone being in a business area. Suaping was at a loss for words. It was true that heavenly tribulations were banned in Wofet. Besides, nobody would do that even if they weren't. Anyone trespassing the tribulation range would inadvertently double its power. Whoever was undergoing the test could get killed because of it. Then, can I at least go to one of the cultivation sites? Suaping could only say. The system didn't disapprove of the plan, so it was clearly optional. Without a word, Suaping summoned all his battle pets and then signed a temporary contract with Phileas's green alligator in the pet room. He then asked Joanna to tag along. Let's go. Hardly had they reached the demigod burial and landed on a mountain when Suaping detected the familiar scent of the heavenly tribulation. Boom! Dark clouds and glittering lightning bolts began to gather above their heads. A heavenly tribulation. Joanna was stunned and then noticed that the dark dragon hound had risen to the ocean state. She was shocked when she realized what had happened. Suaping's pet had the same level back in the shop, yet no tribulation had been invoked. Why was it triggered here? The pet broke through to the ocean state without having gone through a tribulation? She was quite shocked, as it suggested that Suaping had somehow blocked the heavenly tribulation. How could someone block a tribulation? It meant that Suaping had tricked the heavens in his world. Joanna's amazement grew. Not even the superior gods in the demigod burial had ever reached the heaven level. She had only heard that there were higher levels above the superior god rank, and that the heaven which controlled all the order in the world was alive. The beings that were as strong as the very heavens were already unimaginable to them. Joanna looked forward to going to the Archean divinity as Suaping had promised her, but she had only felt assured until that moment. Suaping had a backer able to trick the heavens, going to the Archean divinity didn't seem as far-fetched now. Let the dark dragon hound take care of it. Suaping then opened his mouth and asked the little skeleton and Joanna to retreat. He could revive the hound even if it was killed by the lightning strikes, it was unnecessary to help it. Joanna raised her head and saw the dark dragon hound high in the sky. Its golden fur was growing and its tail was lengthening. It was covered in a hazy golden light that looked like an illusionary dragon. The dark clouds above the dark dragon hound's head were massive. Joanna was quite shocked by what she was seeing. The clouds almost covered a radius spanning through 100 kilometers. And they were still expanding. 5 minutes later, the radius was already reaching 150 kilometers. The clouds were even broader than what Joanna's reincarnation had caused when she had gone through the heavenly tribulation to attain the ocean state. Even though she didn't use too many rare materials on that body nor cultivate any divine techniques, it had inherited her own blood which belonged to the Titan gods anyway. The blood of the Titan gods alone was enough to raise her aptitude to the peak and cause the formation of clouds with a radius of 100 kilometers. Even so, Suaping's dog had surpassed her in terms of tribulation magnitude. The range of the clouds was an indicator that the dog had the slight potential to become a major god. What were the major gods? They were the top experts even in the demigod burial. Major gods were only second to the gods of rules and the superior gods. Suaping was just as surprised to see the dark dragon hound's potential. He then realized that it was probably because of the heaven expansion dragon's bloodline that had just been unsealed. After all, that dragon race was much stronger than those that reached the star state. If the hound was fully unsealed and well trained to awaken all its bloodline power, it could possibly surpass the star state and become a star lord. It even had a chance to reach the ascendant state. Boom! The clouds were soon completely gathered and the lightning bolts struck down, enveloping the dark dragon hound. Suaping observed with narrowed eyes from a distance, carefully examining the hazy air of judgment in the heavenly tribulation. The dark dragon hound weathered through the whole process without Suaping's help. Its combat ability was then further increased to 39 points. The hound's appearance was a mixture between a dragon and a dog. It had exuberant fur and seemed powerful enough to break a mountain with its claws. Suaping was quite satisfied to see that his pet had managed to pass the tribulation on its own. It was quite dangerous, and not every beast could have passed it that easily. The more talented a beast was, the more powerful and dangerous a heavenly tribulation would be. There seemed to be laws of judgment during the heavenly tribulation. Suaping looked at the dispersing clouds, deep in thought. He had understood something while observing the trial happen. He would keep the memory of what he had understood, there could be a chance to somehow apply it in the future. At the same time the green alligator and the white-scaled vast sky thunderous dragon, the one that Suaping had brought back from the rumbling thunder continent, were staring at the dark dragon hound. The heavenly tribulation had truly left them stupefied. Their own tribulations weren't worth mentioning at all when compared to what they had just seen. It's time I passed knowledge to them. Suaping summoned the Inferno Dragon and the Dark Dragon Hound to get closer. As for the green alligator, it was merely his customer's pet. Being the selfish guy he was, Suaping only intended to give it the regular training menu, he wouldn't pass knowledge to it. No knowledge should be given easily, Suaping was going to pass his own understanding to the pets. You're really going to do that? Joanna was quite surprised to hear that. She said, they're just your battle pets. They would later be total strangers if you someday terminate the contract because they can't keep up with you, or for some other reason. I won't terminate their contracts as long as I'm alive. As to keeping up with me, I'll make sure they can by training them. I also hope they can all surpass me and become stronger than me, said Suaping. There was the affection of an old father in his eyes. The Inferno Dragon and the Dark Dragon Hound had been through life and death battles with him. How could he not repay their loyalty? Joanna stared at him but didn't say anything. Those pets could keep him company for a long time, considering their bloodlines and aptitudes. It wouldn't be considered a loss to pass knowledge to them. However, it was just Joanna's perspective. Suaping had never considered if there was any loss. Like he said, he simply wanted his pets to grow in strength and even surpass him. He had never been afraid of being attacked by his pets. He considered the Inferno Dragon and the Dark Dragon Hound as partners, both children and comrades. He trusted them more than anybody else. Suaping asked the Inferno Dragon to be the first. The Inferno Dragon obediently walked and stood in front of Suaping, making the earth rumble as it walked. The pet looked intimidating, but was in fact quite docile. Suaping smiled and laid his hand on the dragon's leg. The next moment, he closed his eyes and transferred the sets of comprehension in his head. The knowledge of annihilation. The knowledge of lightning. The middle rank acceleration guide. They were the top abilities in Suaping's possession. 2 of them even involved laws, he shared them with the Inferno Dragon without hesitation. Suaping let go of his hand half an hour later. A clear and sharp golden light flashed in his eyes, he looked at the Inferno Dragon and checked its specs. Property, Dragon Family, 1/4 of Demon Bloodline, Rank, Intermediate Phase of the 9th Rank Combat Strength, 106 Aptitude, High Talent Skills, Elementary Agility Talent, Elementary Strength Talent, Mid-Level Acceleration Talent. Bloodline Abilities, Inferno Flames, Thunder Dragon's Body, Void Impact Laws Mastered, Lightning Class, Boom, Darkness Class, Annihilation, Skills, Lightning Prison, Hellfire, Lava Ocean, Dragon Smash, Lightning Strike, Dragon Clone, Thunderous Tornado. A combat ability of 106 points. Suaping widened his eyes and rubbed them hard after seeing the numbers, only to find that they weren't deceiving him. Its combat ability was truly higher than 100, and by 6 points. How is it possible? The combat ability threshold for the star state was 100 points, according to the system's metrics. Anyone with a combat ability of 100 points would be as strong as a star state being. The Inferno Dragon only had 30 points of combat ability before the knowledge transfer. The number had surpassed the 100 mark after the session. The power of the 2 laws improved its combat ability by almost 70 points. That improvement was completely unbelievable. Suaping was so shocked he only realized what was happening a few minutes later. The power of laws was a star state power. Even some star state experts had barely mastered 1 law. The power of laws was the reason why star state warriors could easily kill those at the fate state. All the fancy skills meant nothing in front of the power of laws, unless the skills were extremely rare bloodline abilities. The Inferno Dragon had just mastered the power of 2 laws. Logic alone could make one see that it would be much stronger than those at the regular star state. Adding the mid-level acceleration talent Suaping had just acquired, it was even possible that the Inferno Dragon could instantly kill a star state being. However, the Inferno Dragon's level was too low. It had been fighting hard under Suaping's training, enduring hundreds of heavenly tribulations, which purified and compressed its energy. Its astral power was even purer than that of ocean state beasts. The purer the astral power was, the more energy it would contain. The Inferno Dragon's energy capacity had also been increasing because of all the exhausting battles. That was the reason the Inferno Dragon, the Dark Dragon Hound, the Little Skeleton and Suaping had much more energy than other people at their level. Still, the Inferno Dragon's level was too low. The body and cultivation in the mid-phase of the 9th rank presented a massive constraint. The Inferno Dragon didn't have enough energy when compared to the real star state. It could only struggle to carry out the power of laws as Suaping did before entering the star state. Fighting with the power of 2 laws would leave it exhausted. Nevertheless, the Inferno Dragon had a combat ability over 100 points. That was the official star state combat ability. If they ever met the Lord of the Deep Caves again, even the Little Skeleton could deal with it. After all, even though the Lord of the Deep Caves was a star state beast, it was limited to the blue planet and only had Beast King's methods. It only knew the power of laws, it had not perceived other star state skills. The mid-phase of the 9th rank, versus the star state. That was exactly the Inferno Dragon's unbelievable combat ability and aptitude. Suaping was quite excited to see the high aptitude displayed on the profile stats. It was the best aptitude rating that he had ever seen. One step further, and it would become the Ultra level. Above the Ultra level was the Chaos Multiverse ranking. The names on that list were from all the unparalleled geniuses at the top of the world. While feeling a rush of excitement, Suaping couldn't help but ask the system, the Inferno Dragon is only at the mid-phase of the 9th rank and as strong as the star state, and yet its aptitude is only high. Then, what's the Ultra level? Can they fight the Star Lords when they're in the advanced phase of the 9th rank? He was also shocked as he formulated the question. Could there really be such a horrifying being? That was beyond the description of a genius. It was more like a monster. It never occurred to Suaping that the Inferno Dragon's aptitude would have already shocked a lot of people if it went out. Aptitude depends on bloodline, species, level and many other factors. Level isn't the only criterion, the system said casually. If it's not a dragon but a lowborn rat, then it will have ultra aptitude for its star state combat ability in the middle phase of the 9th rank. However, it's a dragon. Even though it's not a dragon with a noble bloodline, some dragons that have the same bloodline have been born with greater talent in countless eons and worlds. If it's able to fight against a Star Lord, its aptitude will surpass the Ultra level and it'll appear on the Chaos Multiverse ranking. However, it will be only at the end of the rank, with a million beasts ahead of it. What the system added almost made Suaping vomit blood. A beast as strong as a Star Lord when it was merely in the mid-phase of the 9th rank could only be behind the millionth place in the Chaos Multiverse ranking? How many horrifying monsters were out there in the world? Suaping didn't think it was possible. If the news were to spread out, all the Federation's denizens would probably be dumbfounded. So, only those who can compare to the Ascendant State can be considered to be at the top, asked Suaping, not entirely convinced. He thought that it was too hard, if possible at all. He couldn't even think about it. No matter how talented a beast was, how strong could they be when their level was so low? Nothing is impossible, the system said indifferently. During the passage of countless worlds and eons, some extraordinary beings had been born with rare opportunities. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that you are still poor at training and there's a long road ahead. I hope you can develop a pet that's listed on the Chaos Multiverse ranking. I'll give you a huge reward when that happens. Suaping felt like vomiting blood. Am I really poor at training? It was true that nothing was remarkable in the eyes of the system. His rising pride was instantly shattered. The pets sold on the streets of the Federation were probably all garbage according to the system's standards. However, once you considered how the system rated them, they really did seem like garbage. All of them were lowly and inferior. Damn it! Sui Ping was at a loss for words, the system's standards were too high. He heaved a sigh and shook his head. Anyway, there's still a long road up ahead. Even though the energy boost won't be no different from before, my real combat ability will probably soar if I merge with the Inferno Dragon right now, all thanks to releasing the power of laws. The vast sky thunderous Dragon King would never have a chance to escape if I ever encountered it. Sui Ping thought to himself. The Inferno Dragon had mastered the power of 2 laws. The old dragon would definitely end up crushed if the former and Sui Ping combined their powers. Sui Ping was excited by the prospect. He summoned the Dark Dragon Hound and transferred knowledge to it. The process was soon over, and the Dark Dragon Hound's combat ability was also above the 100-point mark.